Yeah, Satya.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's glad to have you all here on Saturday morning. Thanks for making time to discuss career workshop around cybersecurity and cloud. We do have esteemed panelists here, and just I think it's our CSA Bangalore's privilege to host this session in the beginning of the year, actually end of the month by the way, but it's actually a great happy new year for us to see the panelists here, starting our inaugural session, which is this event, which is an interactive webinar series. In this series, what we have conducted is we have actually educated a team on foundations of cloud computing and foundations of cybersecurity on cloud. Also explored opportunities of implementing security controls on cloud infrastructure with the labs and then workshops and then interactive discussions on WhatsApp and individual calls, etc. The team, I guess the entire team might have benefited by the interactive webinar series that connects the workshop in the last 3 sessions. This is the 4th session in the series where we are discussing specifically on the career journey. How do you move next to the next level in cybersecurity and in cloud computing and in as a combination in cloud security? So those are the things which we are going to explore with the esteemed panelists here. So just let me start with Sidhu, who is a veteran in cybersecurity and guide for all of us, advisor of this CSA Bangalore chapter. Sidhu, I request you to actually give a couple of thoughts of yourself, maybe introduce yourself. Whatever I speak, I think it will be very less because you are the advisor for me and many of the people here and a mentor as well. So I can go on like this for a half an hour, just describing you. So I'll give it to you to introduce yourself and then I will move on to each of the panelists.
All right, it's a very embarrassing way of getting introduced. I would put it that way with all the accolades. Morning, everyone, all the participants and the Bangalore chapter of CSA. It's a great initiative. I've been observing the work that is going on. In a nutshell, 15 seconds. Been with the industry for about 24 years. I've been in mostly financial services. I started career in non-financials, but moved into financial, worked in banking side of the world, then went into risk management, went to management consulting, then came back to the security world. I'm based out of Bangalore, and I've been fortunate to work with the current company that I'm working, Wells Fargo. Prior to that, I spent about 10 years in management consulting. So happy to be here and happy to answer any questions the audience may have. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Satya.
Thank you, Sidhu. And next one in the panelists is actually one of our active researcher, active contributor to the research of CSA. He is there with us as since the beginning when we founded this CSA Bangalore, working on various research topics like CCM and also now on BFSI survey on cloud adoption. So that is Krishna Pandey. He is not just what we can say a professional in cloud security, but is actually a passionate person to talk about cloud. You just ask him about the topic, he can talk for a lot. I'm not speaking about something which is written in the bio, but something about Krishna is that he brings energy to the research group and also gives us also energy to take more initiatives in this area. Thanks for having you with us, Krishna, today on the panel. I appreciate you add your own bits of introduction for this panel.
Thank you, Satya. Happy to help always. The secret is giving back to community and you get more back. So, I think I have been started my career with research with one of the government organizations. CDEC R&D Mumbai. And I very early in my career, I started getting a lot of opportunities to contribute. And it also, being in an R&D organization, you get a lot of time to kind of research on multiple initiatives which may not yield many, I would say, concrete deliverables. While in the corporates, you have an end in mind when you start. So working for R&D projects, which are purely research initiatives, gave me a very cool way to look into and be curious. So I think my entire career has been like be curious about everything I come across. And because I was passionate about database and networks since college days, and that became more of a thing. And I feel that's where I lead into the big data and cybersecurity in the end. So yeah, have been with work with government and federal agencies for starting of career, have led entire pan-national e-governance projects for India, done my bit for the public. Then I moved to the corporate and have worked with Hortonworks and Cloudera. I have been leading their entire security engineering practice globally. I have also contributed to open source projects like Apache Spark, Zeppelin, and all that. We're making the open source more secure. So I have got something there as well. I have been into every aspect of cybersecurity, from compliance to operations to security engineering. Of course, it remains the bread and butter thing. So recently I moved to Citrix, where I'm leading the security engineering practice for Bangalore and Nanjing, China. So that's a brief about me. And yeah, I'm also current president of ISIS Core Bangalore chapter. So yeah, happy to give back to community and help in every way. Thank you, Satya.
Yeah, thank you, Krishna. So appreciate you giving us time today. And coming to the next esteemed panelist, Suhail. Suhail and me, I think we met together in one of the external workshop and we become friends quickly. And then coming to his expertise, I think we do have very few people who actually worked in actually banking sector and also cloud. I think Suhail is one of them. I think very unique in that way. And then I appreciate him accepting this chance to give us a bit of how do we build cloud computing for banking. I think that's something which is very specific. Suhail, thanks for your time today. And then I request you to give your introduction in your own way.
Yep. Thank you, Satya. Thank you. Firstly, I think Cloud Security Alliance, I think Bangalore chapter. Thank you very much for inviting me on this particular forum. It's a phenomenal way of connecting with peer leaders and of course the budding talent that we have. Probably I'm sure people are joining around from all over India. Looking back, I think just a reflection of around 16 years of crimes that I've done in my professional life. First 9 years at the Indian Army. I was part of the technology arm. And was also part of the initial pioneer practice in settling and shaping up the cybersecurity, the initial foundation cybersecurity practices in the services. And then last almost around 8 years of corporate, I've changed roles across the spectrum of cybersecurity. Initially being into more of a governance and compliance, governance and risk management role, so to say. And then diversifying into security operations, security engineering, and for last around 24 months plus, I'm just trying to reskill myself in a cloud native world and trying to reshape and upskill myself on digital security skills. So yeah, quite excited to be here, and thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you, Suhail, for accepting this. And the next one in the panelist, I think something connects to us. I think as some of you say, majority of CSA Bangalore is actually covered with women. I think I just don't want to call that diversity, but in some cases, I can't help myself, being a woman. Because most of the time we are the few people who are in the meeting room, one or two. And then when we see a third person, we go and hug that person, right? So that's what happens. So, and one more aspect is CISOs. There are very few women CISOs in this country. And one of such CISO is here today, Babita. And I'm very glad to see people at that level and taking that responsible positions. And I know many of you might be looking forward to be in that seat, the CISO seat future. So And I know, Babita, you are very passionate about your work and then also coaching and mentoring a lot of people. Thanks for accepting this, and please introduce yourself in your own way.
Yeah, thank you, Satya. I'm really very happy to be part of this eminent panelist. And as you said, it's really privileged to be in this post. And as far as I know, I am the first lady CISO in the banking industry. So that just to count to the women empowerment, I just made this word. But I don't see any diversity in this field, only because I think people are a bit reluctant to take the responsibility, because being a CISO, it is really a tough job. It is not that easy. We have to keep our eyes in all aspects of risk and have to be very keen, and we should be knowledgeable also to assess the system. Okay, to introduce myself, I started my career as a software developer. And after that, I was with multinational companies earlier. After that, I moved to the banking sector. I was in charge of, I've taken various positions in the IT division of the bank, and was in charge of IT for the last 15 years. And from that, I moved to the security world. So to a certain extent, since I was working in the bank itself for such a long period, I was quite able to understand the infrastructure and the assets and all those things, which has helped me to take this challenge as the role of a CISO. So that's what I want to tell about me, and I'm eagerly waiting for the questions, so that others will be beneficial for our knowledge.
Thank you, Babita. Thanks for being here with us. So hi all. I think this introduction might have helped you just to understand how the career path they have chosen and how they are here at this position. With that as a onset, knowing the panelists, let's move on to the topic today, which is about the career, right? So before speaking about the career, just speak about this year or the past year, 2020. So with the onset of COVID-19, I think a lot of organizations which never bothered about digitization or going on computer started using. So schools are running their classes on online, and then actually banks actually never allowed people to work remotely, and they started actually allowing people from working from home. And then there are organizations who never thought of, even the small shopkeepers started opening a mobile app to sell their utilities. So that's the onset, the digital transformation is happening. With such a change in digital transformation and to reduce the cost of upfront investment, people are moving towards cloud adoption. So that is the way I am seeing it as a evolution. But I just want to know your opinion, Sidhu. What do you see the how you see the transformation is going, and what are the trends you are seeing in the current world?
Yeah, thanks, Satya. That's a very good way to start the conversation about what's happening in the overall economy and the society. Gone are those days where people who have the money power to be on the forefront of serving the clients in a better way. Those days are more or less gone. Cloud adoption is here to stay, not only stay, but accelerate multifold, which was never thought of in the last 1 decade. That's going to happen. Thanks to if there is one thing that came good out of the ongoing pandemic, is the digital adoption and also the readiness of the cloud service providers and the ease with which, even as you rightly mentioned, a small street side vendor also able to manage business, either the payments or even serving and selling on cloud. And that is going to continuously evolve. It is going to potentially bridge the gap between the trading community to the large suppliers of services, and it is good for the entire entire country, entire globe. because once we try and reduce the digital divide because of the money power of large companies, that's definitely good for the entire economy, and it helps also the GDP. So on all that fronts, cloud adoption is probably the best thing that is coming out of COVID. And how it is, we can always talk about it, but let me turn it back to you.
Thank you, Sidhu. Babita, you're working in an Indian bank, and then and it's always said that banks are slow to adapt to cloud. So, do you have any thoughts considering the COVID is changing the scenario? Do you find such trend happening in Indian banking industry?
When we talk about, as Sidhu has rightly said, now this positive part of COVID-19 is the moving digitalization. Okay, and even we can say that the people like a Panwala is also making his living now through by a Paytm payment or a Google Pay. How it's possible? It is by the adoption of cloud. He cannot set up a center of his own, buy a computer of his own to make all this setup. So this easy adoption of all the digital channel was made possible only because we have got adapted to it. And if we can see, as per statistic, more than 95% of the Indian population is now using digital payment in their day-to-day life. So that is the way people are adapting to digitalization. And it is just because, and even see, today we are connected together. We are having this session just because we have adopted to the Zoom club, isn't it? So that is how the world is moving now. And since we started using it from earlier period, but not so often, the adaptation was easy for us. Google Pay, everything was there, but how many people were using it earlier? Now, when it is the need of the time, people started moving to it. And when they moved, they found it very easy. Now it will be difficult for us to go back to the old way of taking money from the ATM and going and purchasing something. So that is the kind of change that has happened in this world, and the economy, as Sidhu has rightly said, is depending on this. Again, as you said, as a banker, there are certain apprehensions which might come to me when I adapt to the cloud. So here, what I would advise or I would say is, like, before adapting to a cloud, what we should think is why I need a cloud solution, what kind of data I'm going to save in this cloud, whether it is very critical, whether it need to be monitored from my perspective, or whether I can share it to the others. So that is like, ultimately it is the CIA, the basics of security. There's confidentiality, availability, and integrity of the data. And classifying based on that, we can adopt the cloud. So this is a simple thing which I can say about cloud.
Yeah, thanks for that, Babita. So that's, I think we are all living in this new normal nowadays, right? So considering this scale at which the adoption is happening, the digital transformation is changing, obviously there is a requirement of jobs. That's what is my guess. That so the reason here is because the landscape is increasing. Obviously, the threat landscape is also increasing. While doing so, the attacks are increasing. Obviously, the cybersecurity skills required to be geared up to meet that threat landscape, right? Suhail, what's your point of view about the requirements of cybersecurity skills, considering this changing adoption of cloud and digital transformation?
So thanks, Satya. I think that's a good continuation of segue of the opportunity space that exists on this side. So before we go into the opportunity which exists, I think the trends, I think what I'm observing from last, I think I would say 3 years or so, when they have become more intense now. I think initially the race was onto the cloud transformation. Now there are organizations which are actually even leading the race, and multi-cloud strategy is actually part of multi-cloud as a strategy is part of the overall construct and build out for multiple reasons. For what reasons, more than one. Now, the way it is actually impacting the talent market is that it's transforming the classical way we were thinking security, and that itself is actually resulting to increasing number of professionals which are being required. And I would say engineering. So I call this particular phenomena engineerization of security roles. And the reason why I call engineerization of security roles is because every single person, be it a risk analyst or be it a be it a security engineer, has to think of doing things in a cloud native way. A classical example of that is that a person who was, say for example, a person who is working on risk management or say I would say managing the risks or running a governance function in a cloud native context. He or she should actually know how to to really embrace concepts like continuous monitoring, because things are so much agile in nature. Things are so much immutable in nature. The changes are happening so fast. One really can't rely on pulling a report once in a month and then doing an audit on that. There has to be a mechanism of continuous monitoring, continuous audit in place. And you cannot depend on your engineering folks, the cloud security engineering or just the SRE engineering folks, to give you that report. You have to upskill yourself in terms of some basic scripting skills that you can run to pull out these reports. And these are very, very simple in nature. And that is what I call engineerization of roles. So there is what I forecast is basically there's nothing called as risk analyst that's going to be existing, say 2 years from now. It's going to be called risk engineers, so to say. That's one classical. And because of this particular shift in terms of expectations or requirement of to succeed in the role, it's actually leading to sort of, I would not say talent deficit, but I specifically call it skill deficit. So there are enough number of professionals that are available in the market, but unfortunately there is a skill deficit which exists in the way the skills are required in a cloud native construct. Just to put things in a very, very simple perspective, being into having recently done some of the recent hirings in a digital security role, there are the talent ratio that I got in market is easily around 1:5. So for every one role, there are 5 to 6 candidates that are there in the market. But unfortunately, the success rate is less than 5%, purely because the skills are not up to the mark. So there are enough opportunities in the market, and the opportunities would typically be around more than, to put in a very simple perspective, imagine 100 cricket stadiums full of people. That's the kind of opportunities which exist in market. And especially in last 18 months, there is a tremendous boom where even younger organizations, be it gaming, be it edtech, be it agtech, where my previous organization, be it e-commerce, every single organization is looking for having good security engineers on board who are broad skilled. So we use this term called full stack engineer only in software engineering construct. But this full stack security engineer is also a growing need in younger organizations. So I think this is the trend which I see. And I think for somebody who's a good engineer, has got good skill set, I think there is no dearth of opportunity, so to say.
That's a great perspective, Sahil. I do agree on that aspect because people, whenever I talk to people, right, so cybersecurity means, at least for the starters, they believe it's actually hacking. Or exploiting applications. That's the way people used to think. And then slowly they are changing in. Some people start thinking, okay, actually cybersecurity means conducting an assessment, conducting an audit. These are the, what we can say, traditional ways by which the cybersecurity profession has been seen as, right? But in future, as the way you are saying, I think we are moving towards this angle of embedding cybersecurity in the engineering and architecting and requirement stage almost everywhere, so that we do have end-to-end cybersecurity requirements within. So that's where we were speaking earlier about cloud computing. Whenever you are speaking about cloud computing at the stage of start, right, when you are actually opening the account itself, you are wondering, how do we enable a dual factor authentication so that nobody uses this account by anybody else? So what happens here is, at the start, the step one itself, the security controls comes in, which means when you are actually connecting to cloud computing, the security is going to be added part of it as a joint part of it. That's how I see it. And thanks for giving that insight. And moving forward in the same line of thought, Krishna, I know you have worked a lot in the cloud. What do you think about the skills requirement in the cloud security or in general cloud computing arena? And then what is the demand and what kind of skills people are looking for?
Thanks, Satya, for the question. I personally feel that given every maybe 5 or 10 years, the industry will definitely go and invent buzzwords. like we are talking about blockchain, Bitcoins, cryptocurrencies, and definitely there is a Gartner hype cycle. So I think the Indian segment has been such, you give them a target, hey, you do a OSCP and you will get a job. You do this. And so we have been hitting the target as Suhail said, like there are a lot of candidates with those skill set, but I would say we check the box, but not having the right skill set. So that has been my experience as well. Like when you open a position, there will at least be more than people who are needed. They will apply the role, but they don't think that it is not about reaching at a goal, but it is about enjoying the journey. Look at it, what cloud computing is. So I'll take a step back for the participants, and I will go into like how cloud is nothing but it is made of the same thing which a typical data center is made of: network, servers, storage, applications, services integration. And in the cloud, like you are managing all this thing and how it is. So the bare bone remains same. Only the management of this is done by the cloud service provider. Now look at this from a security practitioner view. You will still need to protect your network. You still have to worry about site-to-site VPNs, or how are you going to protect your network. You have to still look at your servers and protect it. So you have to do the server hardening. Do you want all hardened image from the CIS benchmark? How you want to do it. So you have to protect each layer which makes this cloud. And as we know, like shared responsibility model in cloud, like the cloud security is not just CSP business, like it is also the practitioners and the business thing. So I would say don't fall for the buzzwords. Look at what it is fundamentally comprised of. Try to understand it in very detail. All this like TCP IP layers don't change in cloud. They are still the same IP protocols and everything. If you understand what a firewall is, they are going to be same. In fact, it is more easy because in the cloud, you get a dashboard where you can at least go learn and change. I remember when I started my career, there was a firewall administrator. I even did not know. I was an IP tables guy, but we never get chance to look at the firewall console as well. But now in cloud, you don't have to be at anyone's liberty. Everything is open. Go just kick off your own AWS instance or GCP and just go play with it. Have fun. I personally know there are so many resources. I sometimes feel that like we are living in an age of information overload. You just go and Google it up. You don't even need me or Sidhu or Suhail to tell you that. You just need to be curious about something. You just should have a clear objective in mind. What do you want to learn? And just Google it. Very well written documentations are available from all the CSPs. You want to become a cloud security architect, go just read about AWS well architected framework, very aptly written. Keep yourself updated. Okay, you don't have time to watch videos, listen to podcasts and whatnot. But the other thing is, everything is available at fingertips. My generation was not that, I would say, lucky or fortunate, but you guys definitely have a lot to do. So I think other thing which you said, Satya, right? So it is not about, I would say, the cloud adoption, which is at the thing, like it is the characteristic of cloud, which makes the adoption such easy. So when you have the whole, I personally feel that whole idea of cloud is like you are like maximizing on the resource bandwidth, right? Like you are not letting go a single iota of resource go waste. We were earlier dealing with VMs. Now, as Suhail was pointing, we are gone cloud native. You scale to the pods level, right? Like how many pods you need, your containers. Like this is all about maximizing the resource utilization and pay for that. And the ability to scale up and scale down is like very minimum effort if once you have the right infrastructure in place. So imagine like you have a data mining job, just go and launch a Spark job, and like you just give, hey, give me 100 nodes and you're done. So this liberty of doing the things as we want at our on demand is what is driving the cloud adoption, where you don't have to. I remember doing a capacity planning for Government of India digital locker initiative way back, and we were like guessing, taking a very educated guess. It will take this much petabyte of storage even if we go and have a 50 MB share of things for each citizen of India. I don't want to do that right now if we have a cloud sort of thing. So I think it made everyone's life easier. People don't have to upfront invest on the things. And going forward, I see that would be the key, where minimum effort on demand scaling up and down in an instant. All these features will make the cloud adoption go much better. But from the security perspective, the main bottom line is, as a security practitioner, you have to see where is your data, and wherever it resides, you have to protect it. Given that now the boundaries are thin, just keep in mind where your data resides and protect that. So it would be a mindset, and yep, that would take everything simple. Yeah.
Thank you, Krishna. Appreciate those inputs. And so touching upon that skills part, Sidhu, I think you do have hundreds of people already working with you and looking for people every day in the security area. So maybe can you give us some idea of, for example, a developer chooses to become a security specialist, what that person has to do, or a person who actually haven't done anything in cybersecurity, worked in processing, etc. So how do they move into security? So what are the different career paths available in cybersecurity? Can you give us some, throw some light in that direction?
Yeah, absolutely, Satya. As Krishna mentioned, whether it is information security or any job people do, I think the one main ingredient is passion. If that is not there, it will become a chore, and you can't do the chores for more than a few hours. Yeah. And there is no job in current world that you can do just 8 hours and go home, or maybe leave your laptop. So passion is very, very important. Information security is such a wide field that it takes every possible skill set, starting from engineering to risk management to even fine arts for that matter, right? Let me give a couple of examples. Say if somebody is 2-3 years experienced in developing applications, right? When they're developing applications, they are also looking at the design documents. They are also looking at potentially how that particular application that they're building is going to be tested, what could be potential test cases. So they get to see not just the business side of functionality side of the application, but also on the capacity side, on the security side of the world as well. And they also will be taught the fundamentals of secure coding. Without that, obviously, they can't do a good code. So they also have that kind of at least training, if not full-fledged experience. If they want to turn the table and come on to the other side, it's always good to start the next adjacent work that you can do. If you're a developer, start coming on to the other side and say, okay, how can I do a code review from a security standpoint? If you're a database engineer, and probably looking at how can you be a continuous configuration control from a security standpoint for the database infrastructure, right? That's another one. Third, if you're a real good liberal arts person who's really good in probably language or good in storytelling, you can be part of the security awareness program. So it's not that only the people with engineering background can be part of information security. Yes, if we are completely onto cloud and it's cloud native, and then small and medium-sized organizations, everything is done through configuration and on the cloud service provider, your team size can be small and mostly on the regulatory or some engineering aspect. But if you're choosing to go to a product company, or if you're choosing to go to a large global organization, it's open. Anybody can walk in and present their interest and then start working on it. So start with what is adjacent to what you're doing, and that takes a long way. Every year, start looking at what next that is closest to what I'm doing. And if you do that without thinking for 10 years, not worrying about what the performance rating is, just doing continuously and broadening skill sets, 10 years, whatever is lost in 10 years by way of not getting a great salary and getting promoted and all that, with one jump, that gets everything. But people who don't do that and stick to the same domain and then running from one company to other, there will be a time that they will not be able to move to the next level that otherwise is possible by other people. So start with what is adjacent, and don't be restricting yourself with educational qualification. Educational qualification is a good thing, but not necessarily a must. So let me turn it back to you.
Those are really wise inputs, Sidhu. I think what I catch up is passion and also continuous learning and then updating yourself. I think those are the three things which are must. And one more important thing for security professional to know is having that critical mindset, right? Thinking out of box. This might happen wrong. Right? That's the way I believe that's another skill which I generally look for. So next part is, okay, we just spoke about in case you are a professional, how do we move on to the next career journey? Think about the starter, right? He's a student or want to start first job in cybersecurity area. So what to do next, right? So Babita, can you give us some suggestions of what could be the first job for a fresher to start their career in cybersecurity, and how could they start? Most of the cases, what I hear is, I know all of you come and give us sessions on cybersecurity awareness, but you don't give me jobs. So what are the few jobs which are available for freshers?
Satya, as Sidhu and Krishna has rightly said, there is a scarcity of skill in this market, especially for cybersecurity. And it is a passion which should lead us to security job, just not because of the opportunity. If you are not ready to upgrade your skills, or you are not ready to learn about the new technologies, or you don't have the passion of doing it, I don't think security field is the right job for them. If I talk about the initial, if a person want to get into a security job, I will probably advise them to join as a SOC team member. So if so he will get he or she will get a thorough knowledge of what is an infrastructure, what is a firewall, how the assets are linked, what kind of transactions are happening, what we need to do. So within 2 years, they will get a thorough idea about a complete organization. After that, based on their passion and skill set, they can choose their own path, whether they want to be a security architect, they want to go into different, or they want to be a red team person, or they want to be an ethical hacker. So unless and until we know about the infrastructure or how IT infra or IT architecture is, that person cannot be a successful security person. So, okay, we can be a pen tester. Only to become a pen tester is to be well versed with the tools available in the market. If I am hiring a VAPT or pen tester kind of a person, he just needs the skill to run that one. But what actually we want is a person who comes with a less false positives, who should be able to see. We are getting a list of these vulnerabilities which is available in the system. Of that, what is more critical to us? How to fix that? Why this has happened? Why this is popping up this? Or whether this is the right vulnerability which has been assessed. So all these skills comes from our experience, and for that we have to go deeper into the systems. So I would advise them, either they can be a SOC team member or a pen tester, and now I have seen a lot of people going for ethical hacking also. So that I'm not sure how far they will be there. Also, they might be taught to use Kali Linux or something, and they will ask to try to get into the system. So initially we will feel very much like doing some game, but without knowing the infra, I don't think that is possible.
Yeah, I mean, if I can add one thing to Babita, if really somebody who by any chance is a fresh engineer and has a good understanding of TCP/IP, right? When I say good understanding, real good understanding, that's a great start, and not many people actually pay attention to that. But that's depending on what the priorities are while studying engineering. Each one of us has gone through engineering. I don't know how much we have paid attention, but as Babita mentioned, without understanding the infrastructure, without understanding TCP/IP, to be a good security engineer is just not possible.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah, thank you, Sidhu, for adding that point. Actually, I missed it.
No, that's good. That's good. But, so I think I do agree with both of you. Go on, please.
Yeah, to get the more awareness of TCP/IP, they should be part of the network team. Yes. Then only they will come to know what it is. So first to be a network team member, an IT team member, then after moving to the security, I always feel we get a added advantage of it. We'll be able to tackle the things personally. We can understand by doing the things, and from that we can gain much of knowledge at a shorter span of time.
Yeah. So just to add on to that, Babita, before moving to the next question, I think what I observed in students and freshers is the learning is based on the gaming. The game is CTF, yeah, capture the flag. So the game here is how many CTFs I won, how many awards I won, or how many bugs I found. So because they are students, obviously they need that kind of competitive nature to learn something, right? That's the way they are learning. So because that path is like that, what's happening is they are thinking that is the only area the jobs exist, which is nothing but application security. However, I think there are other areas as earlier mentioned by Sidhu and added by yourself, Vita, is actually about how can you become a risk engineer, risk specialist, or how can you become a database security specialist, or how can you become a network security specialist. Now, in the cloud security specialist, you need everything almost, right? There are a lot of these different positions do available for starters. Like freshers, I think we should actually keep that mind open rather than just sticking it to one line path saying, okay, you want to start cybersecurity, okay, go and do CEH and go and hack some boxes. I think that's one way to start with, but do not stop there and expand your mind and then learn things beyond that. And as Sidhu really well mentioned, think about TCP/IP, which is actually the core, right? How the exploit actually happens. Yeah. With that, I think move on to the next part, which is about certification.
Satya, can I take 30 seconds maybe, since you
Yes.
said there are a lot many younger people. As you rightly mentioned, everybody is highly interested in bug bounties and all. So at least for those of you who are relatively young, please be very mindful, because in the thick of the moment, it is extremely difficult to be in the know of which line not to cross. And instead of becoming a bug bounty hunter and probably getting $100, $200, $500,000, you probably will have a potential lawsuit against you, or maybe a police case, and can potentially go into jail as well. So that is extremely dangerous. Please be watchful. And getting money, bug bounty is all good, but it had to be thought through before you venture into that path. So let me turn it back to you.
No, thanks, Sidhu. That's really appreciated. That's needed for our right. Most of the people do that. Coming to the next one, actually, this is a follow up to what we just spoken. We said there is a demand, that there are careers, right? So how to reach there? So what are the ways and means by which they can reach? Most people believe certification is the path. So can you, Suhail, let me ask you this first, that what are the different certifications or learning paths available for cybersecurity skills, and then gain that knowledge to reach the path we just mentioned?
Yeah. I think that's a very, very important question. I think that we come across, and I think almost everybody, and even I was dealing with this particular thing till maybe a year or a year and a half back, and that's a continuous question that I ask myself. So I think purely from a certification, so let me put things in perspective. Most of the people or most of the folks in the industry feel that by certification is going to fetch me a job, which apparently is not true. For me as a hiring manager, or when I look at reskilling myself, I see certification as a learning path for myself. It's a more structured way of learning or acquiring a new skill rather than doing a random Google reading. The second is also it is an industry way of attestation of my knowledge. From a hiring manager perspective, somebody who has continuously acquired certain certification, it definitely helps in two ways. One, it helps in increasing your individual searchability when you're, when the staffers or the headhunt is actually searching for the talent for a job. And then second one is it is also an indication of basically your learning agility, as I mentioned, that yes, the person has learning agility. He's curious, or she's curious about enhancing his or her overall knowledge. So these are the couple of ways that certification helps. Now, when you really talk about choosing a certification, I think it's a very, very important investment of effort that happens. And and ideally we should look at some certification which is, at least I try and put that thing in perspective in terms of being more role specific in terms of the certification. Like say, for example, I'll just take a very simple example in terms of, there are 3 or 4 broad categories in which we can divide certifications. Either it's an open certification or it is a very, very objective specific certification. Within this, there could be, it could be around product security, it could be around platform security, it could be around risk management, and so on and so forth. For the freshers, or like say, for example, for the entry level folks under 5 years, who are who just started their journey in cybersecurity, or they want to diversify into some more higher roles. I think going with more role specific certification is very, very important. Now, because the digital security skills are actually higher in demand, and I'm just taking that as an example, like say, for example, cloud security engineering for that matter. There are a couple of options that are available in market. When I say open certifications, these are like the CSA has got, CCSK, which is a great point to start in terms of overall remit of what cloud security is all about. Then you have advanced version CCSP. Then you have another open certification called Cloud Institute, which goes into more architectural level details of it. And then there are more CSP or cloud service provider centric certifications and learning paths, which are there like for AWS, Azure, GCP, OCI, and so on and so forth. What I would recommend is assume that somebody wants to get into cloud security for that matter. The ideal option would be to probably pick up any one of the CSP learning path and start don't pick up the security one, pick up the one which helps them understand the overall solutioning and the services construct. Like say, for example, AWS Solution Architect Associate is a very good entry level learning path which one can enter in and also get an attestation around it, which then further helps them in acquiring a security specific certification. Similarly, there are similar tracks for Azure as well. So these are something which are very, very helpful. It helps you gain an understanding on what are the different services which are there, how do they operate, what are the things that can go wrong, what are the configurations that can be done in terms of hardening and so on and so forth, which is actually a need of the industry. So this is the example that probably I can put it from a certification perspective. Now, of course, there are different certifications are there in application security, product security space as well, like CH, something that you mentioned, OSCP is there. But in addition to certification, I'll probably go a step further. That at the end of the day, we are all investing effort in certification, investment in terms of effort, investment in terms of time and money, to make sure that we are upskilled and we are ready for the next job or the next role that we want to move in. What's also important in addition to certification is the attestation of your knowledge. But what also helps in terms of building overall branding is what are the kind of problems that you've solved, and making a small note of it, how you solve that particular problem and publish on social portals like say LinkedIn, which helps you connect more efficiently with peers in the industry, and also sharing your knowledge. So this is also one of a very, very powerful and impactful ways of attesting that the problems that you solve for. And in the resume, people focus more on certifications. Rather, I would instead suggest that, of course, I think because one already has the credentials, you should definitely mention it. But in addition, I think you should also talk about the problems that you've solved. I think that's something which makes it more holistic in nature, both for hiring manager as well as the folks who are actually looking for an opportunity market.
Thanks, Suhail. That's a very insightful thought about it. So coming to the same area, Krishna, I think you are leading ISG2 as a president for Bangalore chapter. So this kind of certification and how much people show interest in the certification area. CSSP anyway is the most popular certification. So certification, leaving about the certification alone, right? I think we discussed a lot. Suhail has given some components. Will you be able to give us some suggestions on what are the learning paths, right? So there was a research done by the CSA group. They said that the certificate, they also do the certification locally, right? So they said that in India, compared to other regions, people actually register when there is a certification attached to it, right? If certification package is attached, then they go for the learning session. If there is no certificate, people don't go. Whereas in Europe, majority of the people actually go for learning courses. They don't care whether there is a certification or not, right? So they actually look for, okay, what am I learning? What are the learning objectives? Who is teaching, etc. Whereas in India, the certification, right? Am I getting a certification? Am I getting a accreditation? So that's the actually research result, not my own observation. Coming back to the point of, so what are the different learning paths and the career paths to actually achieve what we can say, show yourself better for a next interview. Let's put that way.
Yeah, thanks, Satya. I think, as you mentioned, so Suhel definitely covered the major bits, and I just want to emphasize on the same thing along the certifications. As you pointed out, like the CCSP and CCSKs, as we know, they're very general speaking cloud, like they are cloud service provider agnostic, like they don't discuss about any specific CSP vendors. And they give you a very high level overview on the governance side and other stuff, but it gives you a good understanding of what cloud is, what risks you are signing up for when you move into cloud, then data center environment. So it gives you a kind of, as Suhel said, like a very structured way to kind of go and learn about a thing. And people should look at from a kind of a learning journey instead of certification. I personally feel, and also the one thing good about certification is, as Suhel again said, headhunters, right? Like they look for specific keywords. If you fit the thing, you get a chance. It has been also industry requirement. Like if you know, there are different Department of Defense requirements, like which requires you to have certain certification in order to fit the job. CSSP and CCSP, those sort of things definitely are kind of sometimes become a legal requirement for an auditor and other stuff. So if you are going to be an auditor role, you are supposed to have those certifications mandated by law. And also it helps you to break in between. For example, if I would not have any certifications or master degree, it would have been tough for me from moving from a government to actually a private sector, because it gives a validation that, hey, though he have been doing something not very core to kind of, or like it gives you extra validation. So it helps when people are switching their mainstream lines. If I'm a developer and I'm trying to go break into security, if I have been into doing something else, and as I have seen people who have been done their BTech in mechanical, they are trying to, because they are now, everyone is like super kind of impressed, or I would say like fascinated by this bug bounty, which Sidhu was mentioning. Like the hacker will now have millionaires. So they're like top 10 people who have $1 million, more than $1 million on bounties from the HackerOne platform itself. So we are talking about millionaires here. And these millennials definitely are very fascinated about those success journeys. And that's where it becomes. So I think I personally like to kind of go into tech under the hood. If you are trying to showcase your things, definitely to break into it. If you are knowledgeable enough, certification is very easy. It is about having that knowledge. It is just an attestation that you have the knowledge. So it is a something I would not say necessity, but yeah, it helps you in a certain way. Going about the learning paths, I personally feel that, as I stated earlier, there have been a lot of documentation. Even if you want to just use an API, the documentation from all the cloud service providers have been like awesome. You can keep on reading and reading and reading. These are never ending. If you just look at the services provided by the CSP, if I just have to kind of go and learn, like if you will say, hey Krishna, do you know list all the AWS services, for example, exist? Like they're like maybe, I don't know, 500,000. So as Suhel was pointing out, you have to understand your use case. What are you trying to solve? What is the bigger picture? At least having going through them once helps you understand the bigger picture. Like, okay, just reading about it, maybe a paragraph about all the services, gives you a better overview where you can go and design an architecture or a solution around the problem you're facing, or you can go. But I think don't try to go much deeper into everything. You will overwhelm yourself, and it may not lead to kind of learn about the best practices, learn from the industry leaders, look at the white papers which solve a specific use case. whichever your area like you are trying to break into, if you are breaking into security operations or as a DevSecOps engineer or an automation guy who is going to write Terraform scripts to do this all stuff. So focus on your use case, delve much deeper onto that front. So your learning path should be decided on your interest. If you are more fascinated about like, okay, I want to know how breaches happens and whatnot, probably you're an incident guy, so you go move to the SOC side of the world. If you are more fascinated about developing solutions, so you may be kind of, so I would say follow your passion, curiosity, whatever you are naturally inclined towards, go delve much deeper into it. As Sudhu was saying, 8 hours a day becomes a burden if you're not working on something you don't love. So I would say, given the opportunities in cybersecurity, I would be more focusing on the things I actually want to do. And if I'm really good at it, the job should not be a barrier. Like I will get it anytime. So
Yep.
that would be the thing. And specific to, I think most of the people know, like all the CSPs have their AWS free tier or GCP have their, I personally prefer to learn cloud practical way, hands-on way. So when GCP came out Quick Labs, where I can go do the exercises, where I can go and configure, launch the service, configure load balancers, put my pod and whatnot, and like side-to-side VPN. So I want to learn the hands-on way. I'm much better relate to that way. Reading a lot about a lot of things which I'm not going to use anyway. I keep on forgetting them. But I think if somebody wants to learn about the cloud, I would suggest them hands-on way they should do it. That way they will achieve confidence of doing a real thing, and it will help them. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you,
Satya,
Krishna.
if I can just
Yeah,
add
please
there
go on.
to what
Please go
Krishna,
on.
I think Krishna brought out an extremely relevant point of doing things hands-on. I mean, that's the only way. In fact, he mentioned, he gave that as an option. I probably highlight that as a necessity. There is no other alternative to to doing things hands-on. You have to log into the console, you have to configure things, and you have to do things on your own. I have done that 6 months back when I was doing the Azure some certification on Azure security, because my previous role we were Azure centric. That's the only way to learn. There is no that. I mean, I read like lots and lots of documents, and of course my construct and my concepts were clear. When it really gets to translating things on ground, you need to know stuff, and that can only come when you start using, when you get your hands dirty. Roll up the sleeves, get your hands dirty, and there is no cost to it, to be very candid.
I agree, and it's a lot of fun too. Working on and actually building machines and terminating them is a lot of fun. So yeah, that's good. Thank you. So I know we are actually end of the time, but I do still have one more question to go through. So the last question, but it's for everyone. What we want from you in maybe 30 seconds is, what should CSA Bangalore chapter do to help professionals and students in the career growth? I'll start with Sidhu and then move with others.
One sentence: connecting people. That's the best thing any not-for-profit organizations can do, is to see where the problems are and who are running with those problems and who can help or who can benefit from those problems. So connecting people is the best thing that Bangalore chapter of CSA can do.
Thank you, Sidhu. Appreciate that. Next, I'll move on to Suhail. Can you just give your one thing what CSA Bangalore should do?
I think one thing that is the most critical need you're already doing, like organizing this particular workshop and helping young folks really get that clarity as to what it needs to execute things. So I think that's something that you're already doing. Maybe another thing that could be helpful is maybe creating a small repository of some real case problems which we as security community are actually dealing with. Simple, small, real-time common use case problems, and which we can probably share it to the members of Cloud Security Alliance, or whoever is interested in, and also some guidance in terms of how to solve for that. So this will actually give them actual problem-solving experience, and that's something which is the key. It could be anything as simple as even enabling, and it could be basically part of a small learning path, like enabling a multi-factor authentication. in a modern identity environment for that matter. Or it could be as simple as how to configure a VPC. Some things are already available, even the resources can be in, but basically these are like small building blocks which help in somebody really becoming, getting to what it really takes to do well in the current environment.
Thanks, Suhail. Krishna?
Hey, Satya. So I have been on those calls, but I feel that maybe a monthly newsletter around the whatever cloud advancement. Like, for example, I was reading across and I found out that Amazon now have something as an organization concept where you can have a much global policy which surpasses that individual idea of departments. And like you can have for the entire, like which is associated with the entire AWS account. So there are continuous innovation happening on the cloud front. Maybe there are certain relevant things around cloud security, which like nobody's perfect. So they are enabling services, they're fine tuning the stuff. So a monthly newsletter with maybe, I would say 5-6 topics, which were kind of in the limelight, which people in their day job, sometimes we don't even look at the news. So I think a collection of those things as a newsletter where relevant topics could be shared with the members or maybe published on the LinkedIn page can help. That's my kind of 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you, Krishna. Appreciate that. Babita, can you add your inputs also?
Yeah, like Krishna said, a newsletter is a very good idea so that it can reach to wide people. And moreover, I would like to say, since we are more concentrating on the skill set development of the people, especially in the field of cybersecurity, if we can arrange for some area-specific trainings for the people, and you can make industrial leaders to be part of it for one day, wherein they can share their life experience, because it's ultimately, if whatever is written in the book is not the life scenario which we are going to face and we have to tackle with. And while doing the certification also, if you come across as CISP or CISM or everything, they will be ultimately in the question, they are giving the scenarios and how we are going to tackle it. It is only the life experience will give us the way we can tackle a situation. And when we are, that will be helpful for a person to start his, means like improving his skill sets also. So how I can do this? So what and all I am lacking in, whether my institution is doing this. So if I am not doing it, I can adapt that. So such kind of things, I think that will be more beneficial to the industry also.
No, appreciate that. That's a good point. So we do have a lot of plans to do, but right now, let me just give at a high level, our idea here is to, as most of you said, actually give people a platform where they can actually learn and share their practices. So what we have done so far in the learning sessions, what we have done is we are given a problem, like the way Suhail said. So you give them a problem, let them solve, right? So we have given a actually problem like go ahead and build a S3 bucket and then actually make it restricted, right? Or create an easy to account, but enable only for these people to access it. So we have given such kind of problems and solved it, given the time. So that's the way we started it. I think your response is actually giving us strength that I think we are going in the right direction. And second aspect is about the industry learning. I think this is something which we are planning to do as a what we can say best practice sharing sessions, which is something which is in the planning. And second aspect is about skill development. We are planning to become not planning but actually thought to actually become a learning partner or a certification partner for CCSK. We will be finding a trainer who has already having this authorized training certification, etc., so that we will start giving trainings on CCSK and CCSK Plus to give the vendor neutral certifications in CCSK. Apart from that, we received feedback from the last 3 sessions that they are looking for focused training, as one of you said that the focused training is like enabling PKI or actually enabling how do you actually ensure security on Kubernetes, or how do you actually manage the native cloud security and on data security. So all these are simple, small problems which could be actually extended in the workshop. These are some things which we are thinking. We'll come up with our plan soon. And one new idea which came in as overall is actually the monthly newsletter. This is something which we haven't thought of. We'll work out what we can do best there. Yeah, appreciate all your inputs. And now I'm opening this for question and answers to the team on the call. If you are silent, I understand you all, everything, you understood everything and you have all the problems solved, okay? I know there is no follow-up session tomorrow, Sunday, but this is still a workshop. Hopefully, you will be as interactive as you are on WhatsApp and on the Sunday sessions.
Okay, hi, this is Preetham. I was thinking that we should be posting our questions in the chat, but since you opened this forum, thank you, Satya. I just wanted to get an advice from any of you. I'm a senior PM in the infra world. Okay, so I'm an infrastructure PM, more than 10 years of PM experience. If I would like to, migrate to cloud security or cybersecurity, and so as to stay relevant in the industry as well as advance in my career path, what would be your advice to somebody like me?
Let me probably take that question. So one thing is, as any good project manager, one thing that goes without saying is actually budgeting, planning, and most importantly, monitoring and reporting on it. That particular skill set of project manager is applicable whether it is cloud or not cloud, or technology or not a technology project. So that is one. If you look at potentially any migrations that are happening, people need to look at what is the underlying agreement that we are having with the cloud service provider. What is that we are trying to do? Who are all the teams? Which infrastructure is going to be on the cloud? What is the cost benefit of going through that? All that can be done through a project manager and in collaboration with finance person. That's a good starting point. Second, having this awareness session, particularly in the last 4 weeks, you obviously will have some basic understanding of what the cloud entails, some of the infrastructure elements that can be on the cloud. So when you're having conversation with the architects or maybe the engineers, you're absolutely in the know and have a similar conversation. That's a good starting point. Third is actually stepping out from a project manager and potentially taking extra effort at the cost of, not letting go of the project management work, but take extra effort of saying that, okay, how can I help actually in doing XYZ, right? As Satya mentioned, maybe configuration of some of the infrastructure elements on the cloud, right? Under the shadow of somebody. So that's another starting point, so that you're already part of a transformation journey as part of a project manager. And second is also learning, keeping your hands on the keyboard and learning some of the basics of the cloud infrastructure management. Then doors will start opening for other things.
Thank you, Sidhu.
Yep, I think Preetham, just one thing that I'll probably add over here is purely in terms of your current context of a PM role in infra. So I think you already know a lot of stuff about infra by virtue of your current role. Your specific, and my understanding is that your specific inclination is towards moving into a cloud security engineering role. So yeah, I mean that can be probably an end goal, say around 12 months, 24 months objective. A low resistance entry point for you could be to maybe move into in addition to your PM role, you can take on the additional responsibility, as what Sidhu was suggesting is probably a more ideal way of doing it, is taking on an additional responsibility of either running the cloud optimally in case if your current organization is already using cloud, and also in terms of how to really translate, identifying and maybe mapping risks while running the cloud. So basically risk management stuff in cloud or governance around running and operating the cloud. This could be an additional thing that you can actually take on in your current role, which will be an absolutely low resistance and which will also give you exposure onto some of the key services that you're currently using. And by the way, I think this is one of the need of a lot of younger organizations. They can't afford to have risk management and governance programs like the banking or financial institutions can. But still, there is still a need for them to stay compliant. So what is that lean risk management program that you can build in place that's something that can be a good entry and a low resistance. Either I would say a good and a low resistance entry point. I'm sure the other panelists will also have some things to add here.
Thank you, Suhail.
Yeah, I think quick set from me would be like you are already looking at the infrastructure. I think the first place I will start is like with a mapping, like what traditional infrastructure components you have been working with, what is the relevant cloud equivalent of the same, and what are the security controls around that, and what, as Suhail said, like what are the risks associated with it. So when you start kind of as a project manager, for example, if in the near future, your employer wants to move to cloud, you are already ready with that. Or you can suggest that yourself in some meeting, like, hey, we have been doing this, we have not been using at maximum efficiency, or for the extension of your project, you can suggest like you can have a hybrid approach where you have something on the like internal data center, and then the rest of the burst load can go to cloud. So a lot of companies are coming with hybrid approach. This clear picture of what is there in cloud and very clear understanding of that can enable the organization to think on the cloud for a hybrid model, and that can be your segue into even the existing place where you are working, and you don't have to make a switch or something. So just try to look at what you can do where you are.
Understood. Thank you, Krishna.
Yeah, welcome.
Team, anyone like to ask question? Just unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, I have a question. Hi, panelists. So I'm basically working in GRC domain in a private bank in India. So I'm slowly moving into security operations side domain. So what do you think, like the programming language skills one a security engineer should possess? I mean, I have understanding that Python helps a lot for scripting and all. So any other skills, or like what is your point in the programming language skills one should possess?
What level are you trying to move, Shweta? I mean, like, is that you have something in mind in terms of what level of operations are you trying to move in? Maybe L1, L2, and any clue on that?
Probably L2.
Okay, I think Sidhu will have more tangible inputs on that, and I can probably augment that.
Look, if somebody is planning to come to a security operations center with a kind of development background, let me tell you, the best place to go potentially is some mid to a large size organization. For the simple reason is these organizations are hodgepodge of everything, because they would have bought solutions, as Krishna mentioned earlier, something on the cloud, something in there in your data center, disparate systems due to acquisitions and what have you. And stitching things together is the best thing that a developer can do for security operations center. So not everybody would use a large scale SIM solutions. Even if they use, they don't necessarily have the single pane of glass. So particularly having that development background, and Python particularly, is really, really helpful, since it seems you already know that. And the other thing is having some appreciation for a little bit of a logging and monitoring of infrastructure elements. If you combine that infrastructure logging and monitoring and your experience of Python, I think that would be a killer combination to add more value to security operations center to see something which otherwise they're not able to see yet. That's a good starting point from there. And then, one will start with the other things depending on what use cases we'll see. Hope that answers your question, Kanya.
Yes, that helped a lot. Thank you.
I'll add. Sorry, go on, please.
And by the way, let me chime in. If anybody is planning to look for opportunities, I'm not going to poach from any organization. Wells Fargo posts all the positions online.
Okay, and to clear the interviews, I think what will also help Shweta is having some sense of what are the key vectors or the potential vectors which are highly abused in the ecosystem, most utilize that vectors to deliver deliver the malwares and impact the ecosystems, or what the initial cause of breaches. Simple example could be detection of phishing mails, what are the problems, what are the current industry problems which exist, how different organizations are trying to solve it, what are the current tool sets which are there in the market to solve it. There are very unique ways of doing it. Another one could be around what are the solutions. And these are purely interview questions, by the way. What are kind of solutions? Yeah, what are the endpoint security solutions which exist, which a SOC team uses for doing their investigations, and what's the difference between different breed of solutions? Just having some general awareness on that, and also if you're able to augment it with some level of conceptual understanding, how do they operate and how they differ and differentiate itself in terms of the capabilities they offer. That will be helpful, because at the end of the day, SOC predominantly depends on a lot of tools to do investigation, research, detections, and all. So having some level of understanding, knowledge around these things, both the vectors and also what are some of the tools using which you detect fast and you remediate fast. That will be helpful.
Yeah. So let me add my inputs there about I spent actually a very short stint in a startup company. I mean, I don't call it startup, but at least in India, it's a startup. So how they work is like, the logs are being collected in S3 bucket, and then that gets moved into logarithm using a Lambda function. And that's how they do for the entire globe, So I'm not naming an organization, but the idea here is, so that's how majority of these, what you can say, startup organizations work for operations. So the idea in the back end is majority of them are automated. So the concept here is how you can automate the logs into SIM, or how do you actually aggregate them, or how can you do dashboards also with maybe Kibana or some other dashboard on the cloud, so that you have that insights coming in using your knowledge. So what they do is they actually recruit people who have Python skill and have some kind of understanding on development and a basic understanding of security. So I'm just giving some tips of how this work, right? So once you have these three, the practicality is that you need to prove that you could actually automate some of these structural aspects, as Suhail just mentioned, which is like, for example, what are the threat vectors, from where this type of attacks are coming. These are the applications which are continuously attacked, or we are actually scanning it for a scanning engine, and that logs are needed somewhere. So the automation aspect is by this engineers called cloud engineers. Sorry to say, but that's the name done by the people. Cloud security engineers, they call them. And then second aspect is majority of this SME segment actually use maybe now the enterprises also use cloud infrastructure. So how do you ensure the compliance of your workloads, which are running on the S3 and Azure? So to do that, again, there is a Lambda script written. The Lambda script in the backend is actually Python, right? Actually, it continuously checks whether the systems, whatever is being installed, does they have tags? Does they have access control enabled? Do you have an open policy? All this gets continuously checked. In case any non-compliance, they terminate. So these automations require a certain level of development experience along with knowledge on security. So which is an actually rare combination. Once you have it, I think you got it.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I have 3 points. Being in SOC, you need good amount of sleep. You need to avoid the alert fatigue and look for the IOCs. I'll read more about them. Okay, so otherwise you are gonna miss some.
Yeah, in the field of SOC, there are, like, for newcomers also, there are most of the companies, especially small companies, are depending on cloud SOCs. Okay, they will be interested in cloud people because the infrastructure cannot be affordable to them. And how the use cases are built and how that makes a sense from security aspect. When bringing the use cases, there also comes the knowledge of the infrastructure. And if it is like what kind of logs need to be fetched from that particular thing, how we have to analyze that particular event, and what are the possible, like normally we say we have to match with the MITRE tree or something of that kind, how the attacks might come based on whether the use cases are being deployed. So all these things are some of the use cases that can be deployed in the SOC. And the people who are coming to join a SOC team should have the skill set or should have the passion to learn more about all these things.
Yeah,
it is actually a self platform. Like doctors, the security team people should be open-minded to learn everything. Otherwise, you will be out. Today, you will be talking about cloud. Tomorrow, it will be something else. So it is basically we should have the mindset to know about the new things and know it in a deeper way rather than a peripheral way.
And
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
and apart from all the tips you received here, you still may got breached, right? Like you still may get breached in some point in time. So just learn from it and move on. So
Yeah, as a new technology comes, associated risk will also come. So we have to be updated.
At the end of the day, if you look at all the history of all the biggest breaches in the last 15 years, it's nothing to do with zero-day vulnerability. Very rarely, it is about not following through what is already known, right? Are personality conflicts between teams and between people. It is not a complex situation, technical situation that led to any global breaches. So as long as people are interested in learning and most importantly, willing to professionally and politely speak up and bring points to the table, we should be good. But unfortunately, that is not easy. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, I agree. Any other questions, team?
Yes.
Satya,
I had a question.
I do have
this. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, Praveen, go on. Yeah.
This is Major Praveen Kumar, and I'm planning my second career in cybersecurity field. And I see Sohail Khan sir is already from services background. So I too am planning for cybersecurity. I was very much interested in computer networks during my engineering days, but it's almost been now 10 years. I'm presently in intelligence setup. So we deal with the risk management and other thing which I can correlate with the industry. So my question is like, how should I go about without having any experience of this thing? How should I go about my journey for my second career?
I'll probably just redirect you to what Krishna mentioned. Do things hands-on, get onto the console, start doing things hands-on. That's the only way to do it, Praveen. And I think that's one way, of course. And I think taking a leap from, I think, again, what is that we eventually want to be in and what is that low resistance path? So because you already mentioned that, I think I'm assuming, you're part of, some, probably a third team or, similar, I think, Army cybersecurity organization which is giving an opportunity to probably work on those sides. So I think maybe governance, risk and compliance or, risk management, this could be an immediate area of getting in purely from a low resistance entry point. And of course, I think if you want to grow onto the either operations side of it or say, the engineering side of it, or say now I think the AI ops is also becoming a big thing in cybersecurity. So any of these things, I think we can probably have an entry into the corporate, do that particular switch. And within the same organization, as Sidhu was mentioning, I think have a latest growth, change your role, stay invested into the organization, focus on, reskilling, upskilling yourself, and then I think fan out from there. These are like very, very high level constructs, but this is something which I feel which helped me in some of my previous roles, and I've grown organically in corporate. I was not very, very choosy about what was there on the table. I just said, okay, I just raised my hand and said, I want to solve this particular problem, and that's it. That's what probably helps. Low resistance entry point is an important aspect to consider, especially when we are doing a switch from military to corporate. What will also be helpful is to scout and be connected with organizations like, say, Lowe's, Wells Fargo. I think Goldman Sachs also has a Armed Forces internship program. I think AWS has an Armed Forces internship program, so things like that. So I think subscribing to these will also be extremely helpful.
Yeah, so I can add one thing is that Major, we have open positions, triple digit number, go online and check. I don't know the details of your prior experience in technology side in the services. Check all those positions, you can search for them. If you think anything of interest to you, go ahead and apply online and our talent acquisition team will evaluate and circle back.
Yeah, I have like more specific input. And first of all, like whenever I talk to an Army personnel, I have huge respect for them, irrespective of which zone they come from, like entire. So we are grateful to you eternally, and do reach me out on LinkedIn. I will be happy to have more detailed conversation with you. said that if I were you, I would specifically go for certification. So I will definitely give you that pill. It helps you kind of go focus on a very specific what you want. Like there are very specific certifications based on what you want to. If you're feeling like more generic, go for CSSP. It is some very kind of, I would say, respected. It has been, I think last year it was termed as a, like if you have a CSSP, it is equivalent to a master's degree. So it has been conferred that much weightage. But apart from that, I have a more specific question to you before I can guide you. Are you more of a guy who loves challenge on the tech side, or you are more of a guy who would look to kind of much deeper into the business risk? So that would define on your next move. If you are who looks at the business risk, I would say go on to the GRC stuff. If you feel yourself like, okay, firefighting and whatnot, I would suggest something technical for you. But yeah, given that, like Sidhu said, we don't have enough background on you. I can't suggest something very specific. But yeah, feel free to reach me offline.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, hey everyone, myself Gangadhar. So I'm from Security Platform itself. So I do have one question. Like, so where I have seen, I mean, like I'm searching for multiple opportunities. So where I have observed and I have seen, so many of the people are struggling for job opportunities. So when they are going to LinkedIn or other social platforms, so they're trying for to apply to particular job opportunities, and so they're finding that even if they are fresher or if they are 1 or 2 year experience, so in the job profile or job description, they're asking for multiple certification where they can't afford, or they if they don't have that experience to gain the certification or the particular skill which they require by the organization. So how can we proceed? So if the people having very less experience than 5 years or 3 years, so with the certifications or other technical stuff. So that is main point where I have focused and struggle with this thing, even not only in many of the people, in even myself.
So Gangadhar, let me take that question, Sidhu, here. Any reasonably run HR organization will not make certification as essential in the first 5 to 7 years of experience. They will say it mostly desirable, because people will move, as we all discussed. People may be on the infrastructure side, people may be on the development side, people may be on the risk management side. For them to turn to probably security, they might choose to do a certification. It gives not just the interest, but the commitment to make that change. But if somebody is asking with 3 years of experience overall and somebody is asking for a certification, that to me is, and making that essential is probably an oversight. It can't be true. At least, so some of us who are on the call, the organization that we represent, I don't think we will make that essential. So you're better off not necessarily to worry about that and look for, organizations. But here is the thing though, whatever experience that we have, whether it is 18 months, 24 months, or 3 years, as Krishna or, maybe Suhail, everybody said on this call, should not be just tool centric, should have the understanding of the underlying process and relate to that. If that is not built in 3 years of experience, it's important to quickly start that. Tool configuration and just taking the reports and probably giving it to somebody can only take people to some extent, but invest on that. But again, look for large global organizations which don't ask for this certification as mandatory.
Yeah, I would also like to add what Sidhu said. Like, for example, every one of us every day use a browser, right? It may be on our cell phone, it may be on our devices. But if you just go into an architecture of how browser is, and like what is the man in the browser attacks, or what can be the MITM, like just the attack complexity from a browser and how browser works, what is same origin policy, how does it do sandboxing, what are the sockets behind, just simple piece of technology which is right in front of your eyes, if you don't look curiosity with trying to understand, you will never get, like I feel that personally, the security engineers are kind of, I have seen developers who are like as good a security engineer as me, because they have been curious and they understand the things in very kind of detail. So detail is the key here. Whatever you are doing, just try to understand the bare bone, what protocols, what algos, basically what are the attack vectors. And it all boils down to a very simple thing. Personally, some maybe because you are struggling there. Personally, as Sidhu said, we look into more of project, what you have done. So if you will, if I'm looking at your resume, though you may not have the real work experience, but on that topic, but if you will say that, hey, I did my pilot project where I set up an AWS environment with this thing I did. Here is my GitHub link where all the code is. That would give me confidence that, hey, I can just quickly click the GitHub link, look at it, what you have done. If I'm impressed, you get a chance. So go hands-on, show off your code, do something, even as a side project, it's okay, put it on your resume. Because a problem is everybody has mentioned every tool which works. So if I have 10 resume, all the 10 resume have Burpsuit, Metasploit, Nessus, Qualys, all this thing written there. There is no way for me to kind of get real feedback.
Yep. So just adding to that comments, Krishna. So one more thing we need to understand, what I got is actually the cost for certification. The aspect of cost is actually currently, I think, getting slowly going down, because you've observed during the COVID, there are a lot of courses went free. For example, you are learning some basics. Basics of AWS is free online. Basics of GCP is free online. Basics of cybersecurity itself is free online on Cybrary and IBA and other platforms. There are online resources available. I think for you to learn. First is you need to have that interest to learn, and then say that yes, these are the concepts in learning. That's one. And second is, how do you actually practice it, right? I know you know what you are also asking certification. You are also asking experience, but how can I gain that? Right? You could gain by, as Krishna said, taking an additional project or taking what you can say experimental labs. Currently, there are a lot of labs available online where you can explore the cybersecurity concepts. That's related to not just the cloud, but outside also. There are labs available where comparatively cheaper than the certification itself, through which you can showcase your learn and expertise. I think all of us said the same, right? Most of us said that you need to actually do that to explore and understand and explain. So only when you know, then only you can explain. Otherwise, having just a certification, I don't think any of us on the panel will hire a person. Just certification is not sufficient. It is important to have an implemented experience to showcase that skill, what you learn through that certification. So somehow you need to prove. That's most important.
I completely agree with Satya. I have interviewed somebody for a senior role with 9 certifications. I have not hired that person because 1, application is important. 2, at the end of the day, leading and working with people is even more important. Technical is definitely, yes, it is critical, but so don't get hung up on just certifications for the first 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, like Satya and Sidhu has said, Krishna also has rightly said. Like when I was about to tell the same what Sidhu, I have interviewed many people, and even if it is a 2 to 3 years, if we are asking for a 2 to 3 years of experience, what happens is even as you said, we will be sending certificate desirable. We are not going on because we all know the certifications are our bookish knowledge. It is not the actual knowledge. Even if you are doing a simple job of alert monitoring or anything of that kind, you should be capable enough to tell us what you have done, how you have done, what contribution you have done to learn yourself from these events, and what you have learned from that experience. So without that, just by doing a job of a postman kind of thing, closing, it doesn't make any sense. So, and for that only we have to learn out of the box and what others are not doing, because lot of now it is a competitive world. A lot of documents are available in the media itself where we can go and learn ourselves. And if you are doing something more than what the other person is doing, 100% sure that you will get a job.
Thank you, Babita. I know we crossed even the expanded time of 30 minutes now. I know any of you have any questions, you can reach to us through the email addresses given in the link. Otherwise, reach us through support@csabangalorechapter.com. We'll ensure that your question is answered. We have already taken enough time from the panelists. I appreciate all this, what we can say, insightful advice, and then your experience speaks louder than what we discussed today. I hope this session is useful for all the participants. And as I just said, we need to respect the time of the panelists here. With that said, I sincerely thank your really insightful thoughts today. Appreciate your time. With this, I like to close the session and leave everybody. So team, please send your questions in case you have any more onto support@csabangalorechapter.com. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Satya.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Where is Manjesh gone?
Maybe they all left.
Okay, we said that we will not be speaking after this, right? That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah, but just
Cool.
some.
Yeah.
How was the session, guys?
It went good. It was very nice. Oh, one second. Let me stop the recording.
Yeah, can you stop the recording?
Okay, we need to cut